Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here to review The Grifters, which is a con artist film. I, of course, would uh, just want to do this kind of film because I saw the trailer and I'm like, okay, like the trailer of this just kind of looks really visually appealing. And when I was to kind of figure it out, it was about a con artist kind of film. I'm like, okay, like this seems um, to be like just kind of something that like is to be very flashy because a lot of these kind of con artists are to just be like the kind of just smart films, and also they are to just kind of showcase stuff that you would never think about, where people kind of pull off these scams or these schemes. So immediately when I was to go on and watch this movie, I was thinking of like American Hustle, the Christian Bale Bradley Cooper film. That at some point when Myra's character is going on and explaining a scheme to me, I'm like, this seems kind of like American Hustle. I was also to go on and think of like the Nicolas Cage movie Matchstick Men, where at the beginning of that movie there's to be this kind of phone con going on, and then we just kind of found out they're just kind of con artists, and like Nicolas Cage's character ends up getting a doctor daughter, and it's a whole question of whether or not that they're related or not within the film, and that Nicolas Cage's character is questioning whether he's getting conned or not, and that was kind of just connecting me to this film in that way. And also, if you are to go on and probably want to see another movie about grifters, you'd probably have to see like the Paul Newman, Robert Redford movie, The Sting. It's been a very long time since I've seen that film, so kind of hedge your bets about what that is about. So, when going on into this movie, we have Myra, as I've kind of said already here. Myra is kind of the middle character out of the three of which that I have to go on and explain, but I think kind of characters is probably the easier way to break this movie down. So one thing that I have to go on and say here that could go on and quickly be the yay or naying of appeal of this movie, and I hope people are going to immediately go on and completely hear me out for what I have to say here, because they might get this kind of misconstrued. There are two scenes within this movie that kind of deal with aggressions towards women, and the first one is just to go on and have somebody be questioning their loyalty, and that could just be anybody. Like, it just coincidentally is a female in this film. The second act is to go on and be about a couple whose argument kind of builds up to a point of yes, aggression, and yes, a point where uh, we have by the end of it where this ends up going on and having the person who is doing the aggression realize that they don't normally do this kind of thing, and they just want the person to leave. Um, and so, yeah, uh, just wanted to let everybody know that, so that way they're not really much of shocked or surprised about this film when that stuff occurs. The next thing that I want to go on and get into is Myra, because a lot of people may want to go on and find a movie because it has a certain kind of skin with it also. Myra is a character that goes on and does her individual con in this movie, but it seems that mainly Myra is to con people by her using her body. Maybe Myra is going on and figuring out a way to con Roy in this film, but really it's just the whole uh like is Myra going on and seeing a lot of herself in this guy, Roy, and that's how they are kind of connecting together. So Myra, of course, to go on and have a jewelry con at the very beginning of this film, and then she, of course, is to pay for her rent by using her body, and she eventually, throughout this film, is to, of course, not like Roy's mother, who I'll get into by the end of this, and eventually Myra takes specific interest in Lily and tries to figure out a way for her to working with Roy to con Lily here. And Myra is just trying to want to go on and get a bigger con going. And so Myra is to go on and explain to Roy about this kind of bigger level con that she wants to recreate using him. And Roy is to go on and have no real interest in that because Roy is to be the character that I'm going to talk next about. Roy wants to go on and do very low level cons. Roy wants to go on and figure out how to do kind of like sleight of hand kind of cons and is to do things so small that if he does go on and get caught, then he'll just take a bat to the stomach and internally bleed, and that's probably all that he really has to worry about. Just almost dying would probably be a big concern. So Roy is to go on and leave his mother at a seemingly teen age to find this mentor that he starts using as a way for him to learn all these small cons. And Roy is to be able to make quite a bit of living out of these small cons that he is to kind of stash away for him to try to get out of the grift, which is to be conning people. Then we go on and we have Lily. Lily, of course, is to be Roy's mother, who ended up supposedly having Roy at a very young age, so young that it was almost as if they were brother and sister for how young that supposedly she was when she had him at 14. So Lily goes on to be working, it seems, with some broker corporation that is to be led by a guy named Bobo, who is, if you guys have ever seen the earlier franchise of the Batman movies, the guy who plays Commissioner Gordon in all those Batman films, the Michael Keaton through George Clooney movies, uh, the guy that plays Commissioner Gordon is to be Bobo in this film. Like, wow, it's kind of very different to see him kind of a much more villainous role than the Commissioner Gordon side. So that's kind of rather interesting. And so Lily is to go on and be putting money into these long shots. And she then goes on and is to be making money from that, but she's starting to pocket it, which eventually is to get her in trouble. And it seems that the only person that she can turn to is Roy in this situation. But in all honesty, Roy kind of becomes the problem as Lily's to finally go on and decide to see Roy, I guess, um, since a long time ago, because they have kind of just been um, not been having the best of mother son relationship, or they probably hate one another. But so, but they still just see one another. So Lily goes on to see her son realize that he's hurt and takes him to the hospital, and this goes on to conflict with her uh with her con. So, kind of trying to be as vague as I can, but I kind of am explaining this movie also. So Lily goes on to realize that she is forced to be on the run and is to go on and go back to the only person that she knows besides Bobo, who is Roy, and is in desperation. And it just kind of gets to the point by the end of the film. In my opinion, I don't like the film at the end. That just seemed like, wait a minute, what? You don't like the film, but you're talking. I liked the film, but I just didn't like the ending, and I felt like that was just like like I had to phrase that better, because like like the ending was not good, but like I feel that like if there was ever a way to end the film, like that, I guess really had to be it. But it was just not that like happy ending. Like it was just like, okay, we just kind of reach a stopping gap. We have to figure out how to just like we've taken so much time that like this is it. And I just kind of felt disappointed by the ending. Um Plus also I just feel like this movie just kind of just plops a lot down and then just ends it. And I'm like, all right, like they focus too much time I think on the con stuff that like and they kind of focus on like telling us about these characters, but they don't do enough with them all to like have this be perfectly paced. It kind of feels like we're going on and we're going on a road trip that is just at a very slow pace, and then all of a sudden you just stop and just be like, you know what, I'm just kind of done with this road trip, and you're just like, but we didn't get to our full destination yet. It's like, nah, you know what, I just feel like I'm just kind of tired of road tripping. Like I'm just kind of done, and it's kind of like Forrest Gump where he goes on and he just does that like never ending jog in the Forrest Gump movie, and he's like, you know what, I think I'll go home now. And they're just like, wait a minute, so what are we gonna do? And he's like, I don't know, I'm just done. And then like, yeah, like it kind of feels like that in this movie, of what they kind of do. But I did like this movie. I did think that it was interesting, and some people can go on and have a variety of different opinions about this movie. But I would say that this movie is. I want to say that it's okay. Like I want to say that it's okay, solid okay kind of area. Um, I like the whole story kind of keys up between both Lily and Roy, and then Myra also with her confidence is just there. But it's just like I would have liked if there was a better flow to this movie. Um, but it is what it is. So, with that said, where can you go on and see said film so you can get your own opinion about this piece? Maybe for how I was to talk about it, you thought that it was more entertaining than maybe I was to go on and think of. So, currently, right now, to the second of this recording, there is an app called Pluto TV. And I know what everybody's doing, like, I've never heard of this app before, blah, blah, blah. Pluto TV is an app where you can dare, in fact, without a prescription, go into and watch things. And I have gone on and done that from time to time when I found these more rare air movies that was going to like, I really want to see this movie and it's on Pluto TV. What is that? And then I check that app out. I'm like, okay, I don't need a subscription. Like, I can just plop in here, watch this movie, and then leave if that's what you want to go on and do. But from time to time, I just check out Pluto TV because it's coincidentally tying into certain movies that I've gone on to review within my channel. So that is an actual legitimate app that you can go on and find this movie on. Or if you want, you can rent it on a number of other things. But at the end of the day, that is the freest way you can go on of a legitimate app to check this movie out. I would go on and I would recommend two other apps. An app called Zelifonic, Zelivonic. That is an app I've been using fairly regularly. You can check this movie out there, and you can check out a number of other things, shows and movie wise, that you would probably never be able to see in your average garden variety like apps. So that'll go on and benefit you greatly. Uh, the second app, of course, would be Moopzy, Moopzzi. This is an app you can, dare in fact, watch uh, a good cluster of movies and shows. The only thing of this app, there's more of like a server thing going on with it. And roll the dice, kind of like the servers are to kind of be weird and wonky and whatever. But I was to go on and through both of these apps be able to kind of get into Grifters and watch it. And so, by all means, check either one of those apps out. Both of those apps that I just listed, you would probably need more of a mobile device. If you have, like, I would say it would much more benefit you if you have a tablet or iPad, just to have a bigger screen so you can watch a movie on. But if you just have a phone and you have a Google Play Store, you can check out both these apps for absolutely free, regardless of what mobile device you have. With that said, let's go on and let's fully break down this film, because I think it's about that time to just go into the full-on breakdown of this film, because logically that is all that I really have to say about this film, because once I go on and explain it by characters in the most vaguest way possible, then yeah, like I feel like I've kind of explained this film away. But anyways, I think it's about that time just going to full-on breakdown. Let me know in the comments below what is to be your favorite con artist movie. Maybe you like Matchstick Men. Maybe you like American Hustle. Maybe you like um, any number of other con artist movies that, like there's the Vince Vaughn movie where like the two girls are doing the whole coupon scam. Maybe you like that film. I have no idea what that movie was actually called. I think it starts with an S or something. I don't know. It's been such a long time. Let me know what is to be your favorite John Cusack movie. Maybe you're a Cusack man or woman or goat. I am to go on and actually like Gross Point Blank, which I think reviewed on this channel. I think it's there. Uh, Coincidentally, we had John Cusack in this movie, and we had Jeremy Piven. I'm gonna go with Piven. And I was like, oh my god, it's Gross Point Blank reunion in this one film. Um, and I was really just fascinated by that. I would also go on and probably John Cusack films. Probably Say Anything would probably a thing that a lot of people probably or there's the summer movie that I want to go on and eventually review on this movie um where it's Cusack and Demi Moore and I think the guy who was Booger on Revenge of the Nerds. Um, like they go on and they have this summer job thing, and I think Cusack's character is Hoops. I don't know, but if anything, let me know in the comments below what is be your favorite John Cusack movie or show, because there's quite a bit of those also. Anyways, I think it's about that time to just go into breaking this down. I'm going to get my cast list and whatever I insist to help me break down this movie fully and trot that all out, because that is just something that I rather enjoy, but I get it. People probably won't like a long-winded thing of just me just um, re-describing this whole entire film out to you. But regardless, it's just something that I like and enjoy to do. And so without further ado, I think I'm going to go on and get to that, because I think it's about that time yet again to, of course, go into the song and dance that I like to do, called Spoiler Time. Spoiler Time, it's about that time again to spoil this movie. Let me know in the comments below anything that you want to go on and talk about. Maybe you saw a recent movie or show and you want to let me know about it, because maybe it might be interesting to me. As far as future reviews may go on and be further ado, there is probably a bajillion ones that I've probably said at this point through a number of other random reviews that I probably haven't gotten to yet. Uh, what kind of comes to mind that I'm to really be pushing to want to think about doing because of runtime? Uh, I honestly want to go on and review the original 1930s Frankenstein film because of the runtime on it, honestly. But I've always kind of wanted to actually see that film to see what it's about. Simply because I've gone on to this Frankenstein kick lately, but I kind of want to see the movie that like started it all, and I've always kind of been curious about it, about how um, that movie goes compared to all of the others, just to see the wide differences, and maybe some stuff that they stole from, just to be like, oh, okay, all right, now I've seen this, um, because I've kind of seen uh, bits and pieces of other black and white horror films, so I might as well check out that one finally. I've kind of gotten this itch to go on and see the more rarefied air of superhero stuff also. The one that I'm kind of interested in seeing is the seemingly unaired pilot of the Aquaman show that never ended up getting a thing. But for some reason, the pilot has somehow gotten out there. People are to have somehow obtained this to see it, and so I may fortunately be able to see it somehow or some way. But it may be rather hard for me to go on uh, and explain exactly how people can go on and actually see something like that for free. So more than likely, people may need to rent that one for a buck or two, um, and that's unfortunate. But like, yeah, the way in which they'll have to go on and see how I saw it, yeah, um, is to not be probably the way that everyone will go in that same pattern. Other than that, yeah, there's probably just a lot of just random stuff that I've probably already talked about through random other reviews. I eventually want to go on and see the 10th Victim, which is kind of a weird disco uh, movie, European film that makes a future where death is legal once you have licenses to kill, and you make a game out of it and it's on television. Like, that is a movie that I want to eventually go on and still check out. I've talked about that in some other review. I probably went way in depth about it. Say just saw the like some trailer or something of it. Also, I want to go on and probably end up watching the original Time Machine movie from the 60s, because it seems that for some reason people are interested in the Time Machine stuff. Don't know why. I watched the remake movie and I really enjoyed it, so maybe at some point I'll go on and I'll check out that original 1960s Time Machine movie. Uh, that is a lot of random that I'm gonna go and watch at some point, but maybe all of it may not be tomorrow or the next day or in a month from now. But eventually I'll run out of some random things that I tend to find, hence why they end up on here. I'm still going on and having a possibility of reviewing the Billy Zane movie, The Phantom, and I know a lot of people are like, The Phantom? Like, come on, man. Like, we all know that movie is garbage, but like, you know what? Um, like, I just want to continue to just find super movies or superhero movies, and that'll end up just kind of being another one that I can get out there. Because like to have obviously seen all the other kind of superhero things. At some point, you need to eventually see all the bad ones too. I was kind of curious about the show Mantis, so eventually that might end up being something to see. Will it be good? I doubt it, but it'll probably be something to see. And I don't know how I'm going to do the thumbnail for that one. Uh, saying ahead of time, there's no way I'm going to be able to. It's just going to be me in like some kind of just random shirt of something. That's what's going to end up happening. Because at some point, I'm going to really paint myself into a corner about like certain pieces of content that I'll have nothing for. So with that said, I'm if the Shaquille O'Neal movie Steel will probably end up being one of those also. Steel, come on, like do Kazam. That movie's like, yeah, I get it. All the Shaquille O'Neal movies are movies, but or maybe a lot of people will tell me that Sinbad is in a Kazam movie or something. Uh, Anyways, let's pause here because I'm getting on a tangent and rant, but I kind of feel this is for a lot of people at the end of the video, anyways. But if anything, there's more. So with that said, let's pause here. Let's get everything out that I need to get out because I think it's about that time to go in further. Spoilers, everybody! Deep dish action coming at you, whipping out. So, saying words. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know what to say here, so I'm just gonna say some gibberish and hope everybody is just like, ha ha, ha funny, stupid guy. And I'm like, cool. Anyways, it's about that time. So we have Lily making her way into the beginning of this film at the Palamas Downs horse track race. So they end up setting up here that around the country, the bookies pay off winners at track odds. It's dangerous when a long shot comes in unless you have someone, Lily, at the tracks to lower those odds. And then the bookies end up getting money out of that, but then Lily is kind of scheming from that, and she's putting some money away in her trunk, which eventually Bobo will find out about later on in the film. Also, I think at some point, Bobo goes on and asks Lily if she is getting her own cut for things, and Lily goes on and does say, well, yeah, I'm getting my own cut. I am kind of, and so, like, you would think, because, like, Bobo is kind of questioning Lily's loyalty, and, like, that kind of bit of dialogue there, I think this was just something that they just felt that they needed to just say here. I don't feel like it felt right, to go on and like, if Bobo is already questioning her loyalty, why not add in, yeah, you've probably been scheming on some people, haven't you? But anyways, so Lily makes her way to the horse track as she's bidding for this horse number 3. She's consistently throwing thousands upon thousands of dollars on this horse. So the next thing we see is John Cusack's character's Roy, who is putting this book or this case or something in his trunk. Not exactly sure what this scheme he was going on and doing was. Maybe it's a door-to-door salesman thing that is to be a con of his, but really that is to not be at all like showed or discussed within this room. We kind of have to assume here. So Roy is to go on and make his way into this bar, and the next thing we see here is Myra making her way out of her car to this jewelry store. So this ends up being a split screen where we see 3 of these people simultaneously on one screen, and then eventually we turn to like the money shot where they're all looking like they're all like on screen and they're just like, and then they go their own three separate ways because they're in three different shots doing their own things. So we have Roy that goes in this bar and notices that there's this guy going on and he's having these dimes stacking up next to one another. This guy's weirdly just making a game out of this change. So Roy looks at this guy and says, "Hey, I bet you can't stack those with quarters like you just did with those dimes." And the guy's like, "Yeah, I probably can go on and do that." So Roy bets him, and so Roy goes on and is to showcase to the bartender that he has a $20 bill, and he asks for a beer. And then, as the bartender turns, Roy then goes on and puts a 10 instead of a 20 on the counter, and the bartender grabs it and then gives him $10. So, like, basically, Roy gets his beer for free. So, Roy sees that the guy is stacking these quarters, like, look what I did. And so Roy's like, okay, so he gives him $1, but then takes all of the quarters. And the guy's like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, well, yeah, like he tricked him and he outsmarted him. And he's like, aha, like, and he kind of gets more money, I think, out of the bet than the guy stacking the quarters. So that guy was kind of dumb. So the next thing we see here is Lily. She keeps putting money over and over again on this horse number 3. And she goes on and she's looking at the odds on this thing, and it goes from, I think, 36 to then 22. And she realizes that she's done her job for this day, bizarrely. And she goes on and opens up her purse, and it has like race 4, race 5, race this, blah blah blah, number system going on here. And so Lily is to go on and make money off of this long shot, and is to then uh get out of this horse track at a certain point. So now we have Myra. Myra's going on and bringing this jewelry into this jeweler. I was actually happy that the actor who's playing this jeweler was getting this part, because I actually really like this actor. I've seen him in a kind of a branch of kind of random stuff, but I do remember him mostly from like the Groundhog's Day, where he plays Ned Ryerson, I believe, and he's going on playing this insurance salesman in the Groundhog's movie. So if you remember that Bill Murray film, then you'll know who this jeweler is. But so we have this jeweler that goes on to explain to Myra about the stones in this jewelry is to actually be fakes, and that normally they wouldn't go on and sell her jewelry like this, as Myra, I guess, is supposedly returning this, I believe, from uh and so the jeweler goes on to explain her, it's like, well, yeah, we don't normally sell people this poor of quality, so I'm sorry. And so I guess he ends up giving her a refund. I question all this because I'm just like, ah. And so the jeweler specifically takes Myra completely out into the back of this store and goes on to explain about how these water splashes are to affect the jewelry a very specific way, and that's how you can tell if it's real or not. And so afterwards of going on and because he even says here, it's like, I hope you're not too badly disappointed with us. So yeah, so this is on supposedly this store, but I think Myra had gone on to have this jewelry just kind of to be done in a way that is to have her return it so that way she can get the money out of this. So eventually, then Myra, I think, is to go on and have one thing left to sell this jeweler. And the jeweler's like, oh, well, what is it? And she says, well, you're looking right at it. And so the jeweler goes on in this long bit here, uh, talking about precious stones, and it always hurts when we find them not to be precious. And but he hopes that it's to be something that he is not mistaken. So I think what we're probably getting out of this bit of dialogue here, and I was trying to decipher whether I was right or not. Like, the jeweler goes on and says that, like, this woman is not precious to him, and so he has no real interest in her. So her, like, offering her up to him is like, no, I'm not really all that interested because like, you're not rare. So we now transition here to Roy, and he again is at another bar, and he is to showcase this bartender a 20, and then we have him starting to do the transition here, but the bartender figures him out. The bartender goes on to grab Roy's hand and is to lift it up to see that he has a 10 underneath him. So the bartender goes on and has this bat and smacks Roy, having him bash into this jukebox, and he falls over. Roy grabs his chest here, and he walks out of the bar, and he's in a great deal of pain. We'll come to find out, so much so that he has internal bleeding and he needs to go to the hospital for it, but it'll take him going on and having his mother taking him with an ambulance to the hospital for them to figure that all out. And that they're thinking that he's probably going to die. And Lily's like, oh no, I'm not going to have that. Like, you're not going to have him die. Like, do you know who I am? So, but we're getting ahead of ourselves here. So, we have Roy who's going on, and he's just, his head is against his hood of his car, and a cop comes out of his car to go on and ask if this guy's okay. May I see your driver's license? And so eventually Roy is talking to this police officer. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I think I just really had some bad shrimp. And so he's like, oh, okay, well, like, all right, uh, well, just take it easy. And so, like, the cop just kind of drives off here. They don't breathalyze him or anything. They just assume that he just had some bad shrimp because that's what the guy said. So Lily makes her way after going on and taking some tickets of hers. Some random tickets that people were to drop. Lily goes on to write this letter to Bobo, and she puts money in it, and so she puts it to this address. We then have Lily that is to call her corporation that she's tied to, or like the Bobo company, and they're telling her next to go to Lojala, uh, which I believe is somewhere in um, L.A., I believe, or California, um, because Lily was asking if she was going to need to go back to Baltimore. So Lily is going on and needing to go to California, and she's realizing how long of a truck that stretch that is, and she's like, "All right, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna go to LA. I might as well see my son." She didn't say that on the phone, but that's we have to kind of in our brains like okay, well, if I'm going this route, I might as well just see Roy at some point. So we have Roy making his way uh to this parking garage up to his apartment that he's living in this complex. So immediately when Roy's to go on and pass here, he's going on and overhearing a guy, Mr. Sims, who's going on and talking about women in a very kind of shady s like way. And so Roy ends up kind of intruding here, and Sims, it seems, is talking to a guy that is a future possible guy that's going to live as a neighbor to Roy. And so Roy ends up stating to Sims that Myra will go on and be making her way up to his place. And so when she arrives, for just Mr. Sims to just kind of let her on in. So because Roy will go on and make a phone call to Myra, and then eventually he will make his way to his bed, and because he's still dealing with his stomach problem, we all of a sudden go on to see that there is a spirit walking to Roy's door, and this spirit is to be of a guy named Mintz. So Mintz goes on and is to say, "What do you want, kid?" And Roy looks at him, and this is to be us getting a flashback of Roy's first ever time of him learning how to be a grifter. So we have Roy that is watching Mintz, and he's doing this card game. And Roy wants Mintz to explain how he does the trick. And so Mintz does go on and state that the card is in his other hand. It's like, aha, all right, sleight of hand here. So Roy does pull Mintz aside and tell him that he wants to learn everything. And Mintz is like, oh, you want to be a grifter, huh? Grifter? Yeah, okay. So Mintz is like, all right, I'll go on and I'll teach you some lessons, but if anything, hey, you better not try to be stealing from me. You better not trying to be taken from my pocket. And so uh if anything, Mintz goes on and explains to Roy as if he's never known what any kind of con is ever, that it's like, well, hey, you better go on, you better do cons of people who aren't as wise. So yeah, uh So goes on, and eventually Roy gives Mintz money, and then he kind of walks away. It's like, all right, like I'll definitely train you. So he tells him, yeah, give me $10 and come around tomorrow, and I'll take you on again. So Mintz disappears, and Myra enters as we see this, I guess, spirit of Mintz who disappears. So Myra enters in Roy's bedroom, and the two of them are to eventually end up getting intimate together. They're talking about the smell of one another, and like that, like just the weird, just like I guess they just have to talk about something here, and they just have to talk about how they smell. Um, and they joke about it. They joke around about it. So the next thing we see is that Roy is to go on and kind of be not as well clothed here. He ends up getting a call from Mr. Sims stating that Lily's here, a woman that it seems to be um, claiming that she's his mother, which of course she is, supposedly. So I say supposedly because by the end of the movie, both Lily and Roy are together. And Lily tells Roy, it's like, well, what if I told you I'm not really your mother? And then it's like, well, so is she not his mother? Because she goes on to, they go on to state that, like, she was so young in having him that, like, there's a possibility that, like, yeah, that she just somehow was probably not his mother. Um, anyways, so Roy goes on to be like, okay, send her up. So as both Loy, Lily and Roy start to have this bit of conversation here, like, oh hey, it's a long time since seeing you. Yeah, it's been 8 years. So they're going on and they're having a bit of chit chat here, and eventually, what is to happen is that Lily is to notice uh, that Roy is to start to look sickly to the point where Lily goes on and touches Roy's forehead and realizes that he's burning up. So Roy goes on to explain how he got punched in the stomach a few days ago, and we then have Lily that rushes to the phone and calls an ambulance. So she tells him who she works for and that he better get the best medical care possible. So Roy ends up getting escorted with the gurney out to this ambulance. We have the whole entire time this guy who is talking to Lily, confirming to her how he's going to get the best medical care. And Lily's like, well, you better, or someone's going to end up dead. So we push on here to have Roy, and he's in his medical room, and Lily is kind of watching on because the guy goes on to explain to Lily as they're bringing him to this ambulance that he's having internal bleeding and there's a good chance that he's probably not going to make it. He's probably going to die. And Lily tells the guy who's with the paramedics, it's like, hey man, like you better not kill him because you know who I work for, and so on and so forth, like pushing her weight around. So Roy goes on and he has a full recovery because main character, like, yeah, like there are three characters here, but Roy is kind of the more focused out of the three because John Cusack, anyways. So, what do you think? He's gonna die? No. So, here's where Myra ends up meeting up with Lily, and the two of them are not on the best of terms because eventually Lily will go on and tell Roy that Lily sees Myra as nothing. And also, like, Lily realizes that Myra is not good for Roy, so eventually she wants to go on and throw another woman at Roy, hoping that he'll just kind of get Myra out of her system, out of his system. So, but I also like the fact that Lily ends up telling Myra, it's like, oh, like, well, you're Roy's friend, huh? It seems like you're a lot of people's friends. And I think it's interesting, like, kind of in the later parts of this film, like Myra ends up asking Roy, it's like, well, hey, where do you think you see this relationship going? And Roy's like, you think we're getting married? And it's like, I don't know if you would exactly want to marry a girl like that if like she's to go on and be a grifter, but then again, if you're a grifter anyways, like it seems that the two of you have to go on and both realize that you're gonna quit doing your scams or your schemes or whatever, because that is just like a toxic relationship, um, just kind of waiting to end horribly. Because how can you just trust either one of them, especially like Myra, who uses a lot of her schemes to just kind of sell her body? Like that is like a recipe for just a breakup. But anyways, so Roy eventually kind of wakes up between the two of them bickering like old biddies, and so Roy ends up telling him to play nice, don't fight. And so we have Roy that assumes that Myra was the one who like called for the ambulance and kind of took care of Roy, when Myra turns to Roy like, "Oh no, your mother did all of this." And Lily's like, "Yeah, like I not only brought you into the world, which is to give you life, but then again, I just saved your life again." So like you owe me twice. So I thought that was kind of funny. Uh, so Lily leaves, and eventually both Roy and Myra go back and talk. And it really seems that both Myra and Lily's relationship are probably at a very early stage, because now since Myra is to go on and know who Lily is, because uh, Roy and Lily haven't seen one another for 8 years, I'm sure Myra has no idea who this woman is. But neither one of them like one another. And so Myra goes on and wants to know more about uh, Roy's mother, and then seemingly just be like, "Well, I want to know everything about you." So it's like, so this relationship must just be starting out, or like something, because like Myra is to very much know rare amounts of Roy. Um, but it seems that like they're just infatuated with one another, probably just um, more in the bedroom portion of things than anything else. But so now Lily has to rush to get to the racetracks, because she just was just waiting as long as she could to just be with Roy and to see that he's waking up and that it seems that he's going to recover. So Lily races to the racetracks, realizing that she needed to put a bid on a certain horse called uh, the Troubadour. So Lily is on the road, and she's stuck in rush hour traffic as she's hearing over the radio this horse race, and she's like, oh man, I hope the Troubadour doesn't go on and win because I needed to go on and put X number of dollars against this horse, and it's 1 in a million shot, and yeah, like the bookies are going to be upset with me. Da 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 da. So come to find out, yes, this one long shot horse, it ends up winning, and Lily's like, ooh, like, man, did I make a mistake here? So considering there is nothing that Lily can go on and do, it's far too late to put money on this horse. She ends up just going right back to Roy because there's not much else she can go on and do at this point, but just kind of wait for the next time that she has to go on and put more money on this horse. But eventually, she'll get like taken by Bobo, and Bobo will go on and be questioning her loyalty, but like, hey, how much money did you make on this Troubadour horse? Like who are you working with? Da 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 da, and like that'll kind of just be eventual thing in this movie. So back with Roy and Myra here. So it seems that a bit of time has passed now, as seemingly they're not wearing the same clothes they were wearing, which is kind of interesting. But it seems like the same day. So Myra goes on and asks Roy, it's like, well, hey, like, what happens when you get out of here? And he's like, I don't know, like tic tac paddywhack. Like they're gonna throw a ticker tape parade. They're gonna give me the key to the city. Um, it's like gonna go on and have sex with my baby, the usual, I guess. And so here's where she goes on and asks Roy, it's like, well, is that all that we have together? Is just like, is just that? And so here's where Roy goes on and is to be talking about like, where are you driving at, Myra? Marriage? Um, and so like the further and further this conversation is happening, um, and eventually it ends up getting interrupted as Carol ends up coming in to need to check on Roy here after Myra goes on and takes off her earrings and kisses Roy. So here's kind of like the odd bit of thing here. So Roy is just going on and talking with Myra, and after their kind of little conversation, all of a sudden Roy is putting the moves on Carol pretty thick, and Roy's going on and stating like uh that he's kind of making a joke about how this nurse needs bed rest, and there's only one bed over here that seems to be available, and it's to be his. And so Roy is really laying it on thick here, and like the banter between the two here is actually pretty funny. Really good comedy. I really liked it. So we all of a sudden see Myra leaving the hospital, and she almost gets run over and comes to find out that it's actually Lily's car that is almost doing the running over of Myra. And so when Lily parks her car, Myra sees her in the parking lot. I'm like, oh, I didn't see you there, Myra. It's like, yeah, of course you didn't. Uh, and then Lily goes back to the hospital to meet up with Roy. So the bigger conversation happening between both Lily and Roy here, because I want to kind of get to a bigger um, point here as they go into this whole separate room, this more lounge like room, is that Lily wants to make sure absolutely that Roy is okay. So Lily is going on and hiring a nurse for Roy. And so Lily brings in Carol. And Roy ends up looking at Carol like, can you come here for a minute? Like, the reason why my mother has hired you to be my personal nurse is so that way I will sleep with you. And, like, that's the only reason why you're going to be hired to do anything. And it's not to be my nurse. So, if anything, like, no, Carol, like, goodbye. So, I'm hugely like trying to cut to the quick here, and so there's a lot of other dialogue going on, but I'm rushing a lot. So, and all of this kind of having Carol to be put in this position is really just because Lily wants to not have Roy end up with Myra here because she's a nothing and so on and so forth. So but eventually, weirdly, like while they're talking, Roy mentions to Lily, it's like, well, is there a hint of like jealousy in what you're trying to do here? And Lily's like, jealousy? No. And just kind of like the more and more they talk, the more awkward it starts to get. Um, as if they're almost talking as if um like Roy and Lily have always been more so best friends than actual father and daughter. And like that stuff just kind of consistently just keeps interwoven in this film to where by the end of it, once we actually get to where Lily and Roy kiss by the end of this movie, and Roy wants no intimacy to do with Lily, and then he drinks the water, which that he does. Yeah, like this movie builds to just kind of like escalation of where this movie kind of wraps up to where it goes. So as the further this conversation goes, we consistently have Lily that is consistently mentioning to Roy how she gave him life. And here's where the tail end of this conversation between the two of them goes. I just gave uh, you your life. What you do with it is up to you. And then she storms off. So Roy ends up going on and making a phone call and talks to Myra and misses her, and he just wants to go to the beach and have some fun. And he wants the two of them just to kind of take some time off, to take some time away, and just kind of forget about everything. So now we go to Myra. Myra is making her way to the place of which that she lives, we have a landlord of hers that is wanting the rent paid. And so I believe this guy's name is Joe from the kind of the conversation that they have together. So if his name isn't Joe, then his name is Joe in my brain. So Myra is to go on and talk to Joe, and he's like, "Hey, I want my money. Like out of all the times in the past that she has paid for her rent in other ways." Like Joe is admittedly now like saying like, "I'm putting my foot down. I want you to pay your rent the actual the money way." So we go and have Myra, who's just like, "Well, okay, like um so Joe goes on and specifically leaves and comes back with Myra's bill, and Myra is in a much more skimpier outfit. And Myra has Joe come on in because she has sat a stack of bills off to the side and is to have Joe come and get them. So Joe goes into Myra's bedroom, and Myra is displayed in all her glory. And Joe is to, of course, have to choose between either being with Myra, let's just say, or collecting this bit of money. And what is, of course, to have Joe do but to go on and choose Myra here and to get on top of her. And at some point, we have Myra that laughs while the two of them are in midst of things. And Myra is to apologize to Joe and be like, "Well, hey, I'm not laughing about you. I was just thinking about this order of this meal that I was thinking about." And she goes on and says what the order is. So I'm like, so she must not at all be paying attention to what's going on. She's actually just kind of thinking of anything else but this. Uh, because more than likely, um, yeah, like this is to just kind of be her way of like, well, yeah, I need something to do, to just kind of pay this bill. And so, like, it's kind of an insult to this guy, but like, yeah, um, it's to just kind of tell us like that this girl is to not look at this guy um, as anything but the like, hey, this is a just a con to get what I want, which is just free rent. Moving on here. So Mr. Sims is going on and talking to this girl who's doing the laundry. And so he's talking about her, or he's talking to her about the towels, about how, like, it doesn't look good enough that, like, well, hey, if this isn't to be something that you would normally want to yourself be washing yourself with. So, yeah, they go in a whole bit of dialogue in here. Roy ends up coming back, and both the person doing the towels and Sims is like, "Oh my god, like you're looking better, Roy," and so they go on and have a bit of dialogue here, and so uh, Roy goes on. And he makes his way back to his apartment, and we have Mr. Sims who turns to this woman as to say like that fellow could be a congressman. I don't know about that. Like they're probably gonna figure out his shady past at some point, and somebody's probably gonna snitch on him. So the next thing we see is that after some bit of scenes here that I've kind of already stated, so I'm kind of fast tracking here. Lily meets up with Bobo in his parking lot. So Bobo confronts Lily. It's like, well, hey, like, did I buy you that dress? And Lily's like, huh? Like, so Bobo is to confront Lily about, like, well, hey, uh, excuse me, like, I'm the guy you work for, huh? This and that. So, like, Bobo tells Lily, like, hey, take me to the hotel. So Bobo brings up to Lily about the whole troubadour thing, and so he starts to plug into her about how she's probably working for somebody else, and that there's a claim of a 10 grand win, and eventually Lily goes on to tell Bobo about how she had gone on to meet with her son, and Bobo is like, motherhood? Like, I wouldn't think a girl like you would have a son. And she's like, well, I have one, and he was very sick, and like I had to take him to the hospital. And so, like, Bobo, it seems, is buying what Lily is saying here, but that doesn't change the fact that, like, Lily still didn't go on and do exactly what she was supposed to. So Lobo, Bobo here. I almost said Lobo. Probably because I remember that Steve Gutenberg movie that I reviewed at some point. So Bobo goes on and says, like, hey, do you have a coat that you can wear over that dress? And Lily's like, well, of course I don't. And so he's like, well, I'll loan you a raincoat. So, because he's going to hurt her, sadly enough. So Bobo has some guards when he goes into his place, and he tells him to go on and leave. So as soon as both Lily and him are in the room, he punches her in the face. She drops. So Bobo goes on and tells Lily to bring him a towel because he's going to go on and have these oranges be put in this towel, and is going to go on and try and swing this towel at Lily to just kind of teach her something here. But he doesn't go through with it. It's to just scare her. So as Bobo goes on and lights a cigar and Lily brings the towel to him, we then have Bobo that is to ask Lily, hey, do you know about the insurance scam that deals with the towel and the oranges? And Lily goes on and says, well, yeah. So it seems that if you put this towel as oranges, it's like an insurance scam. And she goes on. Let me pause here for a second. I had to do a bit of a reset there. it's been like it's been some time since just kind of sitting here, so I kind of just had to do a bit of a structural reset. So Lily goes on to explain about the insurance scam, about how if you go on and you have these towels and these oranges, it can do damage without making something look too bad. But then again, also, like, it could as well do some very much term permanent damage. And it seems when Lily used to go on and try to get the permanent out, she can't say it. And so Bobo completes it and says, yeah, you can get permanent damage and you'll never be able to crap the same way again. So Bobo chucks this bag of oranges, forces then Lily to put them all in this towel. And so Bobo goes on and takes the towel, gets close to swinging it. He doesn't. He drops the oranges all over Lily, forcing her to the ground, and then puts a cigarette to her hand and burns her hand. And then Bobo goes on out in his balcony and just starts squeezing this orange into his hand, just sapping all the juice out of it. I didn't understand why she had to wear a coat. Made no sense to me. Like, I guess the whole coat thing was him saying that he was going to beat the crap out of her and it was a scare tactic, but then eventually she's actually going on and wearing the coat. So I in my opinion, I like, what was the coat for? Well, why is she wearing the coat? She's wearing the scare tactic. I guess also, if you technically gave a coat for her, then yeah, that again could just be like, well, yeah, like I own you and I lent you this coat. Yeah, like I want to figure out the whole like reasoning for the coat. He didn't really, I don't think, beat her that badly. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure maybe like there could be possibility of him bruising her. Maybe the coat was to maybe like hide the fact of her burn. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to put the pieces together. Come up with your own conclusions in the comments below what you thought the coat meant, because I was so confused by that. So maybe it was the whole thing of like they maybe didn't have the same like dress for her to use, or maybe there was some time passing between the scene. I don't know. I'm trying to figure this all out. Maybe they cut the balcony scene and the beating up scene. Maybe they. I would have to figure that out. What, bruises? Maybe bruises, has to be bruises. Anyways, so we go on to then have of course the 10 grand being given back to Lily. And so Bobo goes on and offers Lily a drink, and Lily's like, "Oh no, I can't. I'm driving." And we have Lily that goes on and compliments Bobo on his dress of formal wear here, the suit that he's wearing, and I think I said dress for a guy. He's wearing a suit. So Lily goes on about how the suit that Bobo is wearing makes him look taller. I'm sorry, Lily and Bobo next to one another. Lily is obviously taller. the visual of, yeah, but like I can see where Lily is saying that like Bobo is a very intimidating man, and maybe this suit can go on and make him look big and intimidating. And but it's just that like when really looking at it, like Lily is taller than, but whatever. Um, there's just a lot of stuff here that just doesn't make sense to me. Excuse me. So, if anything, comments below. That's what they're for. There's so much of this movie that people have to rationally figure out and put the pieces of. Because yeah, I'm to be just so just baffled at some points. So after Lily goes on and says her goodbyes to Bobo after complimenting him and saying her goodbyes, as at least Bobo didn't kill her. So Roy goes on, and we finally figure out what the heck those goofy paintings are for, as Roy says that he likes them. And come to find out within these paintings, it seems that there's hidden compartments for him to stack money within them. So Roy gets quite a bit of money out because he wants to go on to find his mother and repay her for the medical bills. And he eventually goes on and gives her $4,000, and eventually I'll get to that. So, but Roy wants to go on and have him and Myra go on this train together, and so they're on this train together, and so Myra ends up asking Roy, it's like, well, hey, how are we going to get around? Because we're on this train. And Roy's like, well, hey, we'll just rent a car. And so Roy goes on and explains to Myra how he wants to go on and kind of meet up with his mother again. And then they're going to hit the beach. So, but Roy knows that Myra wants nothing to do with Roy's mother. And he even asks her that. So but Roy goes on to see a bunch of these sailors pass by, and so Roy tells Myra, he's like, all right, like I'm gonna leave for a bit, like I'll kind of stretch my legs, like I'll be back. So he makes his way to the bathroom, and he attaches what I believe is some kind of magnet to his wrist, and he has this dice. And so Roy goes on and uh, has the dice kind of attached to his wrist, and they stick like magnets. So he just goes on and he looks at the dice. So the next thing we see is Roy tripping, falling over, and that's his kind of breaking of the ice to meet up with these sailors. And Roy's like, oh my God, I spilled all your guys' drinks. I'm so sorry. How would I go on? And I go to the bar and like we'll definitely like have you guys get around, right? So we have Roy getting the bartender, shows him the money, and is asking for 4 beers. So Myra is putting some makeup on and sees some guy off the corner, and the two of them have these kind of eyes for one another. And as Myra gets up, she's like walking in a very seductive way. It seems like she's shaking her butt almost at this guy. But nothing is going to happen between the two of them, which I was like, okay, like you would have thought that Myra would have taken this guy into a private bathroom, had a way with him, but yeah, it doesn't really seem that happens. So Roy is going on and sharing beers with these guys. Some of these actors are actually randomly fairly familiar to me. Like the guy next to Jeremy Piven, to be the guy from uh, Renaissance Man. If you ever seen the Danny DeVito movie where they're in the military school or the army school, and he's teaching the kids Shakespeare, I remember this guy. I think he was also in Smallville at one point, randomly. But anyways, uh, so Roy ends up playing that. Hey, like, did any of you happen to see this? Happen to have this thing of dice? And all of them say no, of course, because none of them have the dice. But he supposedly found it on the ground, even though he had this just trick thing where he kind of took this dice and kind of chucked it into his hand. So eventually, after they are to go on and start to drink more beer, Roy is like, "Well, hey, like obviously, like we have to figure out like who's going to be the one paying for more beer, right?" So because Roy is to go on and he wants to continue paying, and Jeremy, the sailor, comes in. He's like, "Oh no, man! Like you shouldn't go on and be paying for all the beer. Like, hey, how about I pay?" And then that's where Roy brings in the dice. And he's like, "Okay, whoever gets the lowest is the one who pays." So that is to be the introductory of the con. That eventually Roy is gonna go on and probably have like a certain kind of dice where he can go on and get rigged so he can kind of consistently win here, so he can win these guys out of all of his money. And Myra goes on and looks in on what Roy is doing and seeing all these sailors, and she's like, "Aha! Like he's conning these guys out of all this money." And eventually, when Roy and Myra meet up together, Myra's like, "Oh yeah, like," because Roy says like, "Well, hey, like, how about we just kind of take a vacation? How about we just kind of relax? Like, how about we just not work?" And Myra's like, "Well, yeah, I saw you working on the train." He's like, "What?" And Myra's like, "Yeah, I saw you working. I saw you working those sailors. Like, you're a con man." And Roy's like, "No, I'm not a con man." And then like Mara's like, "Roy, come on. Like, I know, because I've done it myself." But that happens a little bit later here. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So, because this is technically what happens next here. So, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm kind of like right where I should be, because that's where I'm kind of pushing towards next. So, Myra and Roy are at this dinner table together, and here's where Myra brings up about the whole like, "Yeah, you were working. I saw you work." And so eventually Myra goes on and explains her past history with conning people. She goes on to bring uh, a guy with her into this company, and this guy ends up going on to be a man named um, Gloucester. Myra brings this guy in to go on and talk to a guy, I believe, by the name Cole. And this operation is to seemingly look as legitimate as it can, but we'll start to see that this is a big, huge building, but there are some rooms that are nowhere near finished, because this is just like certain parts of this building have to look good for this con to work. So Cole is going on and talking to this guy Gluster, and is to let him in on what they do here and explain about how between both New York and Japan, like there is this just certain thing that they have 7 seconds of information that they can get, um, that no one else can, it seems, and that they have an advantage on getting this certain bit of information. And Cole with Myra here keeps going on and having these sacks of money uh, to give to her, and Myra ends up showing Gluster this sack of money where he looks into it like, it looks all legit, because of course it is, because I'm sure this money is to be legit, because that's probably the actual money of all they really have to work on this scheme. So at this point of this pitch, Cole is to mention how they have a large amount of machines that are to give them the 7 seconds of information. And Cole is all but willing to show Gluster these machines, and he opens this door. We'll come to find that this room that Cole is going to bring him into has nothing in it. There's no machines, because it's a lie. It's a con. So the further and further they have this bit of dialogue, Gloucester is to go on and be like, "Oh no, I don't think I need to see those machines. I think I get what you're saying. You guys are selling me very well on this." So this guy ends up getting hooked into this con, and eventually, how they go on by the end of this, and how they get out of this con, it seems always, is that Myra goes on to put fake blood pellets on her body. And so when uh, the Gloucester guy comes back to get the money he's then owed, we then have all of a sudden these officers that come breaking in, and they arrest, or they try to arrest Cole, and Cole whips a gun at him and is to fire at Myra, and so she's having blood all over herself. And then I think Cole ends up holding a hostage or something along those lines, and he scrambles out of there, and the police chase after him, and uh, Gluster or Gluster here is holding Myra's body. He freaks out. He runs away. And so, because Myra is talking to Roy here about this whole story, and so Roy is asking Myra, it's like, so you guys have never gotten caught? And Myra's like, no, like the way that we do this whole scheme and how it always ends is that the people end up getting just so freaked out that, like, yeah, they just bail. They like they never figure it out. And then cue Myra and Cole just at this after party, and they're champagning, and they're having a good old time, and the two of them are just partying here, and so Come to find out, the reason why Myra didn't keep going on with this whole scam is because at some point she had been with the Cole guy. The two of them had a seemingly a relationship, and at one point Cole had gone insane, and he was in his bed, and he was consistently stating how he can't move, and that supposedly it's about stress. And Myra's like, well, hey, maybe we'll take a vacation, and so on and so forth. And so eventually they state that uh, that Cole had needed to go to a facility for the criminally insane, and so Myra stated that, like, well, yeah, he retired, and that's it. So Roy realizes that Myra wants to recreate this scam and is replacing Cole with Roy here, and Roy figures that out. It's like, oh, so you want me to do that scam and kind of rope me in on this, and so you want me to join up with you. And Roy will come to find to have Myra continuing to want him to ask to join in on this, and Roy has no interest in it. So now we go to Lily here. And Lily is at this diner, and there is this drunk who I believe, yeah, his name is Kenny here. In the IMDb, they just call him Drunk Man, and unfortunately, they say that his name's Kenny here, but yeah, they just call him Drunk Man in IMDb, even though they give him a name in this movie. So it seems that Kenny's pal is kind of calling him back to the table, but Kenny is obviously not listening. This guy is so drunk that he is trying to get with Lily here, even though she is showing to Kenny that she has no true interest in him. And the further and further the two of them are having a conversation, Kenny goes on to plop himself next to her, even though she is to try to tell him, it's like, yeah, go back to your seat. And Kenny's like, well, I'll take a seat right here. And then he plops down. And immediately Kenny is to be attacked by Lily because she's not putting up with his. So she starts attacking him. And so the other guy that's with Kenny grabs Kenny, and they kind of get out of there because this guy has really been beaten up. And so the waitress goes on to talk to Lily, and like, well, I'm sorry, lady, that I'm sorry that a lady can't go on and just eat dinner and not be bothered, and it'll never happen again, miss. So here's where we go on and have Myra and Roy, and they make their way to their specific rooms. And oddly, Myra is to decide to have a opposite room to Roy instead of having them have a conjoint room. I think it just becomes as a weird joke that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, other than just have this joke here that is be put. So, because Roy is thinking that he's going to have intimacy with Myra here, and Myra is kind of playing all coy about, like, well, oh, no, no, no. Like, I'm going to go to my room, have a nice night. And so Myra just goes off to her other room, and Roy's like, huh? Like I thought you or me, we're going to have this get together kind of like. So And so Roy goes into his room and he's like, well, okay, all right, well. So all of a sudden, uh, he ends up getting a phone call and it's from Myra telling him to open his door. And he's like, for what? And she's like, well, just open it and you'll find out. So he opens his door, looks outside of it, and come to find out, Myra is standing in front of her door in the buff, and she makes her way down this hallway to his room and is now running through his room and is going on and like throwing some sheets to cover herself, and they're just kind of running around. They're playing this game. We go on to then have Roy, who slings Myra over his shoulder, is carrying her, tosses her to the bed, and the two of them have an intimate moment between one another. And Myra's like, "Oh, did you really think that I was just gonna go to this separate room and we were just gonna finish the night like this? No." So now we're back with Lily, and Lily is to go on and be kind of afraid at this point, to where she is having herself a gun, and she puts a silencer on the gun, and she all of a sudden hears a knock at the door. She ends up putting this gun underneath this newspaper on the table, thinking that Roy is not going to find it. Guess what? Roy finds the gun. So Roy comes in, slaps 4 grand, and is to say uh, to Lily that he repays his debts, and Lily wants nothing of the money, and but Roy won't go on and won't take the money either. But as he slaps the money down, he then notices the gun and he's like, "Hey, are you expecting somebody?" And Lily's like, "Well, no, that's the point of me having this gun." So as Lily's holding the gun, Roy notices the burn mark on her hand of like, "Hey, how'd you get this?" And so Roy and Lily start to go into this conversation about how they could talk straight with one another. And Lily goes in on Roy to be like, well, hey, like, well, you don't actually exactly have a straight life either. And Roy goes on and explains to Lily that, like, well, yeah, he has gone on and done some short cons, and it's just small time stuff, and he'll never get caught with something like that, and he can walk away at any time he wants. And Lily's like, well, yeah, I've heard that before. And Roy's like, well, I'm in control. And so Lily's like, yeah, you're so in control that you're dropping 4 grand without batting an eye or turning a hair. Like, so so Roy must have some substantial money lined up. And so like Lily is saying to Roy, it's like, well, hey, if you're either up or down right now, eventually you're gonna be down, and sooner or later, like, you're gonna get caught. So Roy, I think, goes on and says to Lily, it's like, well, hey, like, before you go back to Baltimore, or wherever it is that you're going to go next, like, hey, it would be nice to see you again. And so here is where, like, after this meetup between the two of them, we have Lily that goes on to make her way to the horse tracks, and Myra follows her. So Myra finds out what exactly Lily does day to day, and Myra's at a point where she's at this box at this horse track, and she asks somebody for these binoculars to look at Lily, who is at her car. Myra sees Lily put money in her trunk, as well as also have this envelope out to Bobo. So Myra realizes that Lily is skimming, and I believe Myra is the one that blows the whistle on Lily to tell Bobo what exactly Lily has been doing. Because at some point the train rolls in, and both Myra and Roy are having this conversation, and Myra goes on to explain to Roy how uh, she had gone to the track, and Roy's like, "Oh, did you? Like, did you run into my mother?" And she's like, "No, I was in the clubhouse." And it's like, "Oh yeah, like you were in the clubhouse because you knew Lily wouldn't be in the clubhouse." And so all this comes to a head between the two of them, um, and states here that, like, well, hey, we can um, get this money off of Lily, and Roy wants nothing to do with that, and that also Roy still wants nothing to do with Myra's scam, and Roy also goes on to talk to Myra that he doesn't really care much about his mother. It's not about that, because at some point he had gone on in his life and left home at 17, and everything that he had with him was something that he bought and paid for by himself. And it was nothing of Lily's. So the next thing we see is Roy back in his apartment, and he's putting money back into his painting, and then he closes it up as Myra is to make her way back. Here's where they have the aggressive talk, where it finally leads to the two of them breaking up here. That Myra wants Roy to be her partner in this scheme, and Roy goes on and insults her and says that she's as sharp as a razor, and that she gets what she wants or else, and that it seems that there's a bit of dialogue here that's like, but you don't want to make it work forever. Sooner or later, the lightning hits, and I'm not going to be around when it hits you. So, and eventually, like, Myra brings back in the whole fact of like, well, hey, it's about your mother, isn't it? It's uh like you act so funny around one another, and like eventually the further and further that Myra brings in about the relationship between both Roy and his mother, that's when Roy starts to snap here, and that's when he starts striking Myra here, and that's eventually when he loses control and realizes that he loses control, and he tells Myra that he disgusts her, and that he just wants her to leave. So immediately after that bit of conversation, Roy goes on to call his mother and says that like they really do need to have a talk with one another, just to talk, like and so supposedly Roy is going to meet with Lily tonight at her place, but when he goes to her place, yeah, Lily's gonna go on and be on the run. So yeah, she's gonna go on to her place and knock on the door. No one's gonna be there. So because Lily ends up getting a phone call from an informant that is to tell Lily, hey, like somebody knows that you've been scheming from Bobo, and like Lily is all scared and frightened, so she gets into her car and drives. Roy is getting in his car to make his way to Lily's. So Lily should have gone on and called Roy to let him know what was going to happen or where she was going to be at, but didn't think about it, I guess. Just really needed to get the heck out of there. So, two men were going through Lily's place, and they know what her car looks like, a black and gold Cadillac. So, they know where to try and find it. So, the next thing we see is Roy, who makes his way to Lily's place, knocks on the door, no one answers. And of course, Roy is kind of upset here. Lily makes her way to a hotel, and it seems that she had gone on to be followed by Myra. So, Lily makes her way into this hotel to speak with this clerk, and the two of them have this bit of conversation between one another, and she, of course, wants a single room, and she wants something more private to where she doesn't have to go on and hear much of the traffic or any of the trucks or anything like that. So the clerk ends up giving her a spot that is kind of more back and more private and secluded. And so it's like, okay, all right. So as Lily gets into her car to drive to where her room is located out back, Myra goes on to make her way into the motel and orders a room as well. Here's where we go on, and we now have to have a moment where both Lily and Myra are kind of wearing the same clothes. So they quickly get confused for the exact same person. If they have way drastically different hair color, I guess they just look the same because they're kind of wearing the same outfits, except for one's wearing red and the other is wearing black. So I guess that's to easily just get confused. But then there's further confusion happening. Eventually, uh, when we get to later part of this film as well, how like people can just so get easily confused with one another, especially when a gun goes into someone's mouth. Uh, yeah. So we have Myra that makes her way and ding dings the bell, and the clerk is like, "Oh, do you have a question? Is something wrong?" And then she's like, "Oh, you just look like the other lady that just came in here." So Myra goes on and she makes her way to ask for a room. And so the clerk is to go on and give her a room, but then Myra is to ask for the same thing as, of course, uh, Lily had dated. Like, well, hey, like, couldn't you give me something in the back, more something quiet? And the clerk is like, man, everybody wants something quiet tonight. So he gives, or the clerk, the woman, goes on and gives Myra the room 16. Lily's in room 19. So Lily goes in for bed of the night, and we have to somehow realize that Myra had stolen the keys to the rooms. Because at some point, Myra is to go on and have this whole thing of keys, and she is kind of looking through them to kind of see which one to grab. So the next thing we see here is that Myra is getting this bucket of ice and then makes her way to Lily's room and is trying all these keys. One of the keys ends up working. Myra is kind of hesitant going into the door, but then she does so. So Myra goes in the door, choking Lily, and then it cuts away. So Roy is getting out of this airplane and he's talking to this Arizona or this Phoenix, Arizona police officer that is telling Roy to get in the plane with him because he needs to go and identify a body. Because it seems that there's only so very few next of kin for this body uh, to be identified, so he has to be the one to identify it. So they make this way to this morgue, and Roy says, "Yeah, not a whole lot of laughs in this room." And so they go on, they bring in the body, and Roy looks at it and he's like, "Yep, that's my mom," as he looks at the hand and there's no burn mark on it. And he's like, "Yep, that's my mom," even though it's not. It's actually Myra. Lily will go on and explain what happened because as Myra was going on and choking Lily, Lily goes on and turns her gun on Myra, shoots her in the head, and kills her. And it seems that the body was so unidentifiable that bizarrely they would just go on and just assume that it's Lily, and so they had to have Roy identify his mother's body because he was the only next of kin. So because there was no fingerprints, there was no DNA to say otherwise. It seems because I guess this was just at a point in time where I guess they didn't do that kind of thing. So we have Lily that is on the run here. And so she makes her way into Roy's apartment and she starts looking throughout his entire place to see where he stashes his secret stash of money. She goes on to make her way through this and finds the paintings, opens them up, and takes all the money. She grabs this briefcase and she chucks everything out of it and she starts throwing this money in. Slowly but surely, a door opens and Roy makes his way into the room, closes it, and then turns on the light. Like, oh, hi, Lily. And Lily's like, oh, you scared me. And it's like, ah, well, like, like, are you going somewhere? So Roy just states how he came back from Phoenix and uh and Lily used to say it's like, oh, is the frame upholding? And Roy's like, well, it looks pretty solid, Lily. It's like, yeah, you can definitely escape because someone is kind of taking you as you going on and being dead. So yeah, like, uh, but we have to realize that even though supposedly Myra is going on and portraying Lily as a dead person, that Roy is the state, or Lily or Roy is the state, that Bobo can still go on and make sure whether or not that Lily is dead, and so she's still on the run regardless. So it's not like she can just escape and never need to look over her shoulder again. She's going to be doing that probably for the rest of her life, for however long it lasts. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Because credits roll. Anyways, so we go on to have the two of them have a bit of a conversation here. And we have Roy that has Lily just give him an explanation about what had happened. How Lily had gone on to get a bucket of ice and accidentally stumbled into Lily's room, and Lily killed her. Because, of course, considering Lily's on the run, uh, Lily had gotten scared and just shot Myra. When really what actually happened is that Lily was getting choked by Myra, and so considering like Lily was like realizing that she was gonna get killed here by Myra, Lily decided to fire back, is what the real image shows us. So the whole bit of dialogue that is kind of going on by the end of this movie here is that Lily wants money, and it seems that Roy has money. So Lily's like, well, hey, I'm on the run. Like, I want your money. And Roy's like, no, you're not going to take my money. And Lily's like, but I need that money. And Roy's like, no, you're not going to take that money from me. Like, if anything, from whatever money that you already have, like, you can make some kind of life, and then maybe you can end up going straight. And yeah, like, you could be able to start over again. Like, and Lily's just like, well, Bobo will always be after me. And like, he's gonna be after you regardless. So like you're gonna go on and like you just need to just run. Like, there's nothing you can do but run. Uh, and, like, if anything, Myra's death will probably buy Lily quite a bit of time here. So, the further and further this conversation heads, and I'm trying to compact and condense this down as much as possible just to kind of get this finished up because I know it's already 2 hours, anyways. Lily is to go on and ask Roy, it's like, well, how can I get this money? Um, After they've gone on and shared some ice water together because Lily is thirsty. And Lily goes and gets 2 things of ice water and then brings it back. And Lily tells Roy to just like, hey, pick whichever one that you want. And Roy's like, oh, like, are you trying to tease me that you poisoned one of these? Like, you would never do that to me. Come on. And Lily's like, well, you never know. And so yeah, obviously Lily is just upset that Roy just won't give this money to her. It's like, well, hey, I brought you in this world, I gave you life, and like you're not willing to give me this money. And like, because Lily is just seeing that Roy like could earn back this money, but Roy is just like, no, nope. Like I've like he has gone on and done cons at a so much more smaller scale than Lily. Lily should have some kind of much more nest egg than he could ever go on and have. And plus, also, she has all of that money in that trunk, but that's not enough for her. That makes no sense. Plus, also, like, Roy knows that Lily has stashed away quite a bit of money in this trunk because Myra had told Roy about it. So Roy must know that Lily has been stashing away money. And so, yeah, so we go on and have Lily that is pushing Roy, just like, well, then how am I going to get this money then? Like, what do I need to do? What could I do? And this is where Lily goes on to tell Roy that, you know what, I'm not really your mother. And Roy is like, well, what are you talking about? Like, of course you're my mother. And Lily goes on and gets ever so much more closer to Roy, and the two of them kiss, and Roy goes on to take a drink of his water, and he kind of takes it off to the side here and kind of drinks it. So, as his face is turned, Lily grabs Roy's briefcase full of money, chucks it at his face, thinking that she could knock him down or knock him out and just take the briefcase and run. Instead, what ends up happening is the briefcase comes flying open, all the money comes flying. Accidentally, the glass ends up that's held in Roy's hand accidentally breaks and goes into his jugular, into his neck. And so Roy starts bleeding to death by a piece of glass in his jugular. So there's no way to correct that. So he's going to bleed to death. He falls onto the ground. Lily is mortified by the fact that she is to kill her own son because that's not what she really wanted to do. She wanted the money by any means, but not to actually kill him. And she just is to just be so distraught that she starts crying. But then she realizes that, like, hey, she has no time to lose. So even with this money starting to be covered in blood, Lily grabs all the money that she can and is to thrust it back into the briefcase and takes this elevator, gets into this car, and then leaves. And that's how we finish up this tale. And that is a really just sad ending. Like, I wish there was a better one. Or maybe, in my opinion, probably the way that they could have probably ended this film that could have ended poorly for everybody is the guys who were to need to find Lily. They find her, they confront her, and they catch her and they bring her in, and nobody wins in the story. Then, I think that would have been like a full closure moment. Um, but hey, regardless, I'm gonna get out of here because I'm sure that this review had taken way too long to talk about. So I'm gonna get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.